Hey guys, Sean here at the Gardener Center. So one of the nice things about the late summer fall season as far as perennial plants go is it's a time that a lot of our native blooming perennials are really at their peak, and a lot of them are really late bloomers, and native plants are just a fan favorite around here for us, for our customers here locally, and for our YouTube fans. So fan favorite late blooming native perennial content this week, and it's going to be kind of a double feature because today's video is going to be about some late blooming fall native perennials, and then our next video is going to be a continuation because I wanted to talk specifically about some plants, so I wanted to give myself enough time. So I have three really cool native perennial plants to talk about this week. They are all members of the Asteraceae family, or the Aster family. One of them actually is an aster, but they're all members of the Aster family. And these guys are all native to the eastern part of the United States. Two of them specifically here in Connecticut, but all of them are native for a good part of North America, east of the Mississippi, from like Maine down to the Gulf Coast. So a couple of really cool ones here, and two of them that you've probably never heard of. So I'm really excited to talk about them. So like I said, they're all members of the Aster family. So the first one I'm going to talk about are the asters that are on the table. And this is New England Aster, or Aster Novae Angliae. And this one, as its name would imply, is absolutely native here in Connecticut. And this is just a straight up species aster. This is not a hybrid or a cultivar. This is just straight up Aster Novae Angliae. And you may notice here on the table that they're purple, and there's also this pink one here. And because they're all the same species, just like we're all Homo sapiens and we're all the same species, but some of us have red hair and some of us has blonde hair and blue eyes and brown eyes. The same thing happens a lot in the plant world, where you may have the same species with different colors of flowers or slightly different leaf shapes. So that's what we're seeing here. I got a huge batch of purple ones in, but there happened to be a pink one in the mix. So native New England Aster here. A great plant, not used nearly enough. And that's true of a lot of the plants that are on the table here, because these guys that bloom late in the summertime often get overlooked in the spring and early summer when people are shopping for plants, because color drives most of the sales in the garden center and the nursery. So a lot of these guys are either not available early in the season, or they're just green leaves in a pot and they get overlooked. So now is a great time to look for these late blooming summer natives, and to plant them actually. So New England Aster, terribly underused. I think one of the reasons it's underused, besides the fact that it blooms so late, is they get really big. These are a large growing plant. When I say large, they can grow 4 to 6 feet tall. They like to grow in a sunny place with a somewhat wet soil. Not soggy, but a wet, well-drained soil in a sunny spot. A nice trick that I like to use with these, though, if the thought of a 4 to 6 foot tall aster scares you, what you can do with these guys right around the 4th of July, if you have these in your garden, right around the 4th of July, you can cut them back by half. So if they're 2 feet tall, cut them back to a foot tall. If they're 3 feet tall, cut them back to a 1.5 feet tall. What that's going to do is it's going to produce a plant it's going to make the plant branch laterally and horizontally. So it's going to make a shorter plant that's wider, and it's going to bloom a little bit later if you cut it back like that, but it's going to make a plant that's more manageable in size. So New England Aster, and especially if you're gardening for pollinators, I was wheeling a cart of these around in the nursery yesterday, and I was moving at a pretty good clip. And I mentioned to my nursery foreman here, Dan, I said, I feel like the Pied Piper of butterflies right now, because I literally had about a dozen different kinds of butterflies chasing these on the cart as I was rolling them through the nursery. So if you're interested in butterflies and providing them with a nectar source, and this time of year that's really important because a lot of our spring and summer flowers are past. So New England Aster, you can find them in pink, you can find them in purple, you can find them in white too. But definitely a good choice for your pollinator garden for late color and nectar source for our butterflies and bees. Two other Aster family members here. This one here is a Coreopsis, and a lot of you may be familiar with Coreopsis. You may be growing Moonbeam or Coreopsis Zagreb or Coreopsis Early Sunrise. Very common garden plants, have been for years. This one is called Coreopsis Tripteris. Its common name is tall Coreopsis, and it's tall. This one grows 6 to 8 feet tall. So, and again, with this one, that same technique I talked about with keeping the asters a little bit smaller and more manageable in your garden, you can do the same thing with the Coreopsis Tripteris here. Cut it back halfway right around the 4th of July. We'll produce a plant that's a half to a third shorter, blooms a little later, but it'll be a wider and more compact and manageable plant. But if you have the space to let these guys do their thing, they are absolutely spectacular. So if you have a meadow setting or an area where you want to, where you have space to fill in, Coreopsis Tripteris is definitely, should be high on your list there, because this is a fantastic plant. So the tall Coreopsis, also native to a good chunk of the eastern part of the United States. I have one more over here, which I really love. This is the first time we've had this one at the store. This is a Liatris, and you may already be familiar with Liatris, commonly called Blazing Star or Gay Feather. They're usually spiky, very spiky, vertical purple or white spikes. You may be growing cobalt, that's a really common one. And Liatris has been a common garden plant for all the 30 years that I've been selling plants. But this one is a little different. This one is called Liatris Scariosa Nieuwlandii, or Newland's Liatris. It blooms later, about 4 to 6 weeks later than the Liatris spicata. And the flowers present themselves completely differently. So instead of being a spike, they have they come out like this in these little clusters of these little poofs. And they bloom later than the Liatris spicata, like I said, and this one is going to extend. If you already grow Liatris, you know butterflies love those. This is going to get you another 4 to 6 weeks of color out of Liatris. And I really, even besides the flowers, I love these beautiful dark stems that they have. So this is a really different type of Liatris, and again, native to eastern North America. Great food source for our late season butterflies and bees and such. So 3 choice native pollinator plants here for you guys to consider. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.